Morning all. So today I will be reading chapter 2 of Jaikus and Reneeke Join the Guild. So the boys were trying to get in there to the guild. Booba out there front, stopping them. They went to go get a sword. Jaikus learned that you need to listen to the experts, not just say, hey, this one looks cool, this is going to be perfect, because sometimes it's not. Sometimes the worst looking thing is the best thing you can afford. And the experts will steer you in the right direction, especially an honest one. They went to Keeler's, and he wanted the sword, smash. I love that scene. So now we're in chapter 2. They learn that if they do an adventure, they can get in. And then they were also told that on the side of the Adventurers Guild are these scrolls where are adventures that need doing. And if you do one of these adventures, you can possibly get into the guild. So now we start chapter 2 with him standing in front of the scrolls, looking at the various tasks needing doing that people around the realm have requested them to do. And the ones still there are the ones that all the established adventure teams haven't done yet, or don't want to do, or feel it's beneath them, or it's too dangerous, or whatever. All right. So here we go, chapter 2, with commentary. So spoilers. Remove a specter. Ice giant stealing cattle. Recover family heirloom from cursed crypt. Reneeke turned to Jaikus. I'm not sure about these. 7 scrolls, each detailed over a score of tasks in need of completion, were nailed to the side of the guild. They had gone through 6 thus far and hadn't found anything their meager talents could handle. Here's one that doesn't look too dangerous. Mr. Fats requests leaves of the Atlas plant. Glancing from the scroll to his friend, Jaikus asked, maybe we could find some in an apothecary. Reneeke shook his head. If they could be had so readily, I doubt if Mr. Fats would have sought the services of the guild. You have a point. Further reading revealed that the nearest location of the leaves was some leagues within the Kyoto swamp. Maybe not. To travel to such a distance into the swamp would almost ensure encountering trolls, a prospect neither relished. Flipping to the last scroll, Jaikus was drawn to a scrawl written across the bottom. Lost ring. See Matron Grantha, Rekla. 5 gold pieces. A lost ring? What do you think? Reneeke nodded. Sure, she's in Rekla too. Most of the tasks listed on the scrolls ranged all over the realm, and even in places neither of them were in the least bit familiar. It was fortuitous that this one happened to be nearby. 5 gold pieces would come in handy, Jaikus added. We spent all but our last few coppers at Keeler's. Then let's find this Matron Grantha and see what we can do to help her. Setting out from the guild with but a name to go on, they asked passersby as to this lady's whereabouts. It wasn't until the sky grew dark and they had wandered up near Adventurer's Way that someone knew who she was. Matron Grantha? Questioned a lad of about 11. Sure, I know her. She lives by herself in the house next to Chondi's Outfitters. You can't miss it. Thanks. After finding the general direction in which her home lay, they quickly came across Chondi's Outfitters and the 2-storied home that shared its south wall. To the right of the Outfitters was a small open plaza, so the house on the left had to belong to Matron Grantha. The door of the home bore ornate scrolling with faded varnish. Jaikus rapped on the door with a round brass knocker, paused, then rapped again. There was no response. He was about to rap a 3rd time when they heard a bolt being thrown and the door swung inward a few inches before halting. An elderly woman squinted through the crack at the 2 on her doorstep. Yes? Good afternoon, Jaikus began. Are you Matron Grantha? Squinting harder, the woman asked, Is that you, Booba? Jaikus glanced to Reneeke, who only shrugged. Turning back to the lady, he replied, no, ma'am. My name is Jaikus, and this is my friend Reneeke. We saw that you were in need of someone to locate a ring. Oh my, yes, she replied. My husband gave me that ring during our 17th year together. Face pursing, she cursed. He was a drunken lout, but I did dearly love that ring. Opening the door wider, she gestured for them to enter. Okay, I gotta change that 17th to 27th. That's been bothering me ever since I read it last night. Because the ring, she's gonna go on to explain, has a diamond and two rubies, and the two rubies are her granddaughters. In their 17th year together, it's unlikely they're gonna have two granddaughters. Although back in medieval time, that's possible, because women had babies early. So 17, figure her, she was 15 when she had her first kid, maybe 16, 17. No, that's not possible. So if I make it 27th, then that's more possible. He says, "Oh my, yes," she replied. "My husband gave me that ring during our 27th year together." Face pursing, she cursed. He was a drunken lout, but I did dearly love that ring. Opening the door wider, she gestured for them to enter. "Won't you come in?" "Yes, ma'am." Passing through the door, they entered a nice, if not lavish, outer room one would expect in the home of an elderly lady. Frilly lace abounded. The door closed behind them, and Matron Grantha indicated for them to have a seat upon the divan. She sat in a plush chair directly across from them. "Could you tell us about the ring, ma'am? When did you last see it, and most importantly, what does it look like?" "Well, I do seem to recall wearing it last month when I went to Clara's for dinner. Clara, of course, is the wife of my first son. He's been gone these many years, and we find comfort in each other's company. She runs a bakery now with the help of my two granddaughters, Mara and Chari. Love the girls both. Soon it will be time to pick out a husband for Mara. She's the oldest." She eyed the two seated before her. "I don't think either of you are right for her. Perhaps you should go, and I'll try to find someone who is more well off." She squinted at them a moment. "From the looks of you two, coins don't find their way into your pockets very often." "Ma'am, we're not here about your granddaughters," Reneeke explained. "We're here to help you find your ring." "My ring? Oh, yes, that's right. It went missing. Did you find it?" "You know, you don't get the reward until you do." "Yes, ma'am, we understand that. But we have only just arrived, and you haven't told us what it looked like or where you may have lost it." "Didn't I? I was pretty sure I had. Well, it's a gold ring with a large diamond set in the middle with two red sapphires, one to either side. Those are supposed to represent my granddaughters, Mara and Chari. Mara is said to be betrothed to the miller's son, but he seems a bit shiftless to me. I cautioned her mother as to his ways, but she doesn't seem to care." "I thought you said a husband had yet to be picked out for Mara," asked Reneeke. She then launched into an exhaustive explanation of why-tos and wherefores, and Jaikus turned an annoyed glance to Reneeke. "Let's try to keep her on the ring, shall we?" he whispered. Sorry, Reneeke said back. When a break finally came in her convoluted rendition of Mara's betrothal prospects, final disposition, and so forth, Jaikus interrupted her with, "Now, about your ring. Could you—" A nudge from Reneeke caused him to leave the sentence unfinished. His friend was pointing across the room toward where a vase decorated with pictures of violets sat on a small table against the wall. Not actual violets, but there's pictures of violets. I think that's funny. On the table, behind it," whispered his friend. It was the ring. From where they sat, they could really make out the diamond and two sapphires placed either side of the ring of the diamond. And two sapphires placed either side of the diamond, just as she had described. Reneeke turned his attention back to Matron Grantha. "Ma'am, your ring—" Oof! The quick jab in his ribs silenced him. "Will be in your hands by morning," finished Jaikus. "Thank you, young man," she said with a smile. "It means so much to me. Not because of my late layabout husband, you understand, but because it represents my darling granddaughters." Jaikus came to his feet. "Have nothing to fear. Jaikus and Reneeke are on the job." "Wonderful." As he turned to see them to the door, Jaikus moved toward the vase and the ring, partially hid behind it. Then, when her back was turned while opening the door, he snagged the ring and slipped it into his pocket. Reneeke frowned and shook his head. That's stealing, he mouthed to his friend. I'm going to say he silently mouthed. Heading for the door, Jaikus ignored Reneeke and slipped through to the street beyond. You boys have a good time finding my ring, she said. We will, ma'am. Once Reneeke had joined him out on the street and Matron Grantha closed the door, Jaikus turned to his friend. Tomorrow, bright and early, we'll return with the ring and collect our reward. But this is not right, argued Reneeke. What do you mean? She didn't know where it was. We found it and are going to return it to her. Jaikus, she didn't lose it, merely misplaced it. Look, we need to complete an adventure before we get to the guild, right? Reneeke nodded. We do this and we get in. I still don't think this is the right way to go about it, Reneeke asserted. We are taking advantage of an old lady whose mind and eyesight are going. A pause, then. What if it was your grandmother in there? Which one? Waving off the answer, Jaikus continued. Besides, we need coins. We are not stealing, merely satisfying a need that she has requested we fill, namely, returning her precious ring to her. We're down to coppers, Rennie. Reneeke did not look convinced. Trust me, this will work out. Bright and early the next morning, Jaikus and Reneeke were once again knocking upon Matron Grantha's door. When the elderly woman answered, she squinted at the two of them. Booba? No, ma'am, Jaikus replied. We are not Booba. My friend and I were here yesterday and said that we would help you find your ring. My ring? Did I lose that ring again? Apparently. You posted a notice at the guild and we came in answer. Oh, yes, that's right. My ring is missing. When you find it, let me know. She started to close the door and Jaikus quickly stepped forward. He laid a strong hand upon it to prevent the door from closing, then said, We have already found your ring. You did? You boys are quick. Jaikus pulled the ring from his pocket and held it out to her. Here you go, ma'am. Taking it, she said. Thank you, young gentleman. When she again began to close the door, Jaikus said, I believe there was a reward. Oh, that's right. I almost forgot. Wait a moment. She closed the door until there was only a crack left through which Jaikus and Reneeke could peer. We shouldn't take any reward, Jaikus stated. We didn't do anything. Look, Renee, we need the gold. Without it, we'll be without resources all too soon. Besides, did you see the look on her face? We brought her happiness. By taking a ring from her home and returning it the next day, it isn't right. Jaikus rolled his eyes and sighed. Reneeke would never understand. Seconds ticked by and the woman failed to return. Peering through the crack, Jaikus tried to discover where she had gone, but couldn't see her. He nudged the door open a little bit so he could get a better view of the interior. From the back of the house came soft, melodic singing. Frowning, he hollered, Hello? When nothing happened, he hollered once more, this time louder, Matron Grantha? The woman peered from the back. Is that you, Booba? No, ma'am. We are the ones who returned your ring. Slightly exasperated, there was an edge to Jaikus' voice. My ring? She asked. Holding up her hand, she showed them where the ring rolled on her finger. But my ring is right here. I'm afraid you must have me confused with someone else. Look, we are from the guild. You posted a request for someone to recover your ring. We came here yesterday and took on the task. Not more than 10 minutes ago, we returned the ring to you. Did you? She asked. Why, that was awfully nice of you, young man. Yes. And now we would like the reward of 5 gold pieces you offered. I don't know anything about that. You'll have to take that up with Booba. Who is this Booba, and where can we find him? Growing thoughtful, Matron Grantha inquired a faraway look. Then she said, Now I remember. He's usually in front of the guild. Lost his arm a while back, poor boy. He comes around here every now and then to check on me. Seems he feels I should move in with him and my youngest daughter, Belle, but I simply can't bring myself to leave my home. Reneeke gave her a warm grin. We understand. We shall take this up with Booba. If you do speak with him, please tell him I am well. It would be our pleasure. Then to Jaikus, Reneeke said, Let's go. As Matron Grantha closed the door, Jaikus turned to Reneeke. We'll never get our money out of Booba. You heard what Keeler said. That man has it in for those of us who want to join the guild. Relax, Jake. You get too anxious about things. Rene, we have little in the way of coins remaining. What are we to do? Reneeke shrugged. Something will come up. Jaikus did not share his friend's optimism. Okay, so I've gotten quite a few comments about this scene. People, readers just love the fact that this old lady, that though Jaikus was really trying to cheat her, and because I mean, if you find something in their house, you shouldn't collect a reward for it, right? And Reneeke is an honorable person, and Jaikus, well, he's honorable to a point, but you know, he is satisfying in need. He found the ring, but as he gets the better of him at the end, I love it. Okay, now they're going to be at the end, at an inn later in the evening. Two locals shared their table that night. One was a rather stocky man, a candle maker by the name of Jenki. The other was Jenki's oldest son, Jenkamar. The common room being rather packed as it was that evening, a rare occurrence, if what Jenki alleged was any indication, he and his son had asked the two would-be adventurers if they could share their table. Of course, Reneeke said, okay, before Jaikus could formulate a reasonable excuse why they couldn't. The father and son turned out to be a jovial pair, and Jaikus was quickly put at ease. We saw the trolls being marched to the guild yesterday, Reneeke told the pair. I had never seen such beasts in all my life. Jenkamar nodded with a grin. Then you must not be from around here. No, we hail from Runnybrook, a small farming community many days to the east. Such sights are quite common, the son explained. Why, just last week, Treglay's fearsome four actually brought in a fire drake. Seeing that beast paraded through the streets was something, let me tell you. Isn't bringing such dangerous animals into the city, well, dangerous? Asked Reneeke. For the most part, no, Jenki replied. Of course, there are those instances when less skilled adventurers try to bag a beast that's more than they can handle. Turning to his son, he asked, remember when Teeth of Hell brought in those devil bears? When his son nodded, he turned his attention back to the two friends. They hadn't made it halfway to the guild before the bears broke the holding spells and started running amok. 10 died that day, and another score will never walk again. People tend to be wary when a new band is marching their prize through the streets, added the son. They didn't seem concerned when those trolls were passing through, stated Reneeke. That's because it was Yi's band of thugs. Everyone knows Yi and his crew know how to... Everyone knows that Yi and his crew know how to handle the beasts. Quite the colorful names these parties have, Jaikus commented. Jenki nodded. They tend to. If you boys are thinking about joining the guild, you'll probably want to join one of the existing parties, at least until you get some experiences under your belt. Why? Reneeke asked. Jake and I thought we could, go it alone. I suppose you could, but you'll survive much better if you have a few extra swords with you, not to mention a spellcaster or two. Reneeke turned to his friend. What do you think, Jake? I doubt if anyone would have us, his friend replied. They might. We won't know until we ask. The prospect of going hat in hand from party to party in the hope someone would deign to allow them to tag along just didn't sit well with him. Downing his ale, the father stood and motioned for his son to do likewise. This will have to be good night, gentlemen, he announced. We have an early morning ahead of us. Have an order for the guild to complete before noon, the son explained. Thank you for allowing us to share your table. You are welcome, Reneeke assured him. Good night, Jenki said, then led his son across the common room to the door. Once the pair had left the inn, Reneeke signaled their server for another round of ale. They were nice. Jaikus nodded. They didn't have long to wait until two frothy mugs sat before them. Reneeke picked up his and knocked back half of it. Excuse me, said a voice from a neighboring table. Turning toward the hail, Jaikus saw that it was a dark-haired lad slightly younger than himself and Reneeke. He sat with 5 others of similar age. Yes? We couldn't help but overhear what you and those other fellows were talking about. Kind of rude, isn't it? Listening in on other people's conversations? Jaikus didn't care for such behavior. The kid shrugged. Probably. But thought you might like to know of a guild party leaving on the morrow that may be interested in taking along a couple springers. Springers? Asked Jaikus. What do you mean by springer? Didn't Keeler mention something about springers? Reneeke queried. The lad glanced to his buddies and gave them a grin. A springer is what they call a new adventure. You know, because in the spring the world reawakens, becomes new again, a beginning, as it were. What party? Jaikus troop. I heard they were going to be escorting Heimel the apothecary into the swamp to collect rare reagents. They usually have a springer or two on those trips, or so I heard. Okay, the boys know what a springer is, and Jaikus and Reneeke do not know what a springer is, and so they're just they're just messing with them and trying to get them to go on as springers. Of course, if you read the back of the book or the description, you know what a springer is, and if you haven't, you'll find out soon enough, but not in this chapter. Why would they want someone along who would be next to useless? Reneeke asked. Jaikus flashed his friend an annoyed look at being referred to as useless. Charka is pretty nice about such things, the lad explained. Always wanted to help out the new guy. Reneeke turned to Jaikus. What do you think? We don't know anything about this Charka or his troop. How can we know he'll do right by us? Hey, I wouldn't steer you wrong, the lad assured him. I just thought I'd let you know. Take it or leave it as you will. If you're interested, Charka can usually be found at the Dented Helm, a hangout for fighter types located near the guild. I suppose it can't hurt to look into it, Jaikus stated. Then to the lad he said, Thanks, you're welcome. Turning back to his friends, they began speaking in hushed tones. Jaikus rose to his feet and told Reneeke, Let's head over to the Dented Helm. Two men stood conversing near the entrance. Both were obviously guild fighters. One had twin blades strapped to his back, while the other had a mace hanging from his belt. Both gave the two wannabe adventurers a cursory glance. Bobbing their heads in greeting, Jaikus and Reneeke walked past without a word and entered the Dented Helm. It turned out to be a rather large tavern with 2 floors of rooms above the drinking area. Rocca's laughter could be heard coming from within. Hanging on a rusty old chain attached to a beam near the entrance was an old war helm, its left side completely caved in. It was a busy night, and there wasn't an empty table to be had in the common room. A bard was setting up on the small stage in the far corner, and no less than 3 barmaids worked their way through the tables, delivering mugs of ale and platters of food. Jaikus scanned the sea of faces. Which one is Charka? I don't know, Reneeke replied. Flagging down one of the barmaids, a comely lass with long flowing auburn hair and a well-rounded figure, he waited until she drew near, then said, My friend, and would like to buy a drink for Charka. You wouldn't know what he favors, would you? He usually drinks the black cider cult. Black cider cult? It's brewed locally from a plant growing on the edge of the swamp. I've never tried it, but I've heard it could knock a troll back a step or two. Very well, then. Putting 2 coppers from his pouch, he handed them to the barmaid. Will this do? She shook his head. No, 2 more. Producing another 2, he gave them to her. I'll get it to him right away. Thank you. As she walked away, Jaikus asked, What did you do that for? We don't have any coins left. Just wait. He kept an eye on the door. He kept an eye on the door through which the barmaid had disappeared. Then when she reappeared with a tall flagon on her tray, he directed Jaikus' gaze toward her. Look there. They watched as she crossed the common room and set the flagon before a large bear of a man. Clad in skins, with a beard as full as a tree in spring, the man looked questioning to the girl. Then, when she pointed over to where Jaikus and Reneeke waited, Reneeke said, We have found Charka. The big man waved for them to come over and join him. When they reached his table, he said, Many thanks, lads. I do appreciate a flagon of the cult. Our pleasure. Charka's 2 comrades, one a woman as thin as a rail and dressed in a green gown, the other a fighter dressed in leathers with a simple-looking sword hanging at his hip, nodded greetings as well. Charka's 2 comrades... Oh, I just read that. Please sit, Charka offered. Thank you. The common room seems a bit crowded this evening. 1 second. Taking a seat, Jaikus gave the big man a grin. Reneeke took the seat next to his. Now, what do you want? Charka eyed the 2 newcomers from behind the flagon as he took another drink. We understand you may be need in a couple of springers, Jaikus explained. The big man looked surprised. And you are volunteering your services in that capacity? Absolutely, Jaikus replied. We wish to join the guild, and it appears to be the only way. Well, it's true we do prefer to have a springer or two, though the last one didn't work out too well. Oh? The woman sitting beside Sharker nodded. He didn't make it. Well, let me put your minds at ease. My friend and I are no strangers to the sword, and we would be a great asset to have along. Do you have supplies and equipment to last a fortnight in the swamp? When he saw how their faces turned crestfallen, he knew they hadn't. You'll need to get some. Jaikus was about to reply, but was forestalled by Reneeke, who said, We spent all but a few coppers just to get here and in purchasing our swords. Jaikus flashed him an annoyed look. Not a problem. Do you know where the dirt road is? Asked the man dressed in leathers. Aren't all the roads in Rekla dirt? Jaikus asked. No, it's a chandler's shop called the Dirt Road. Bella sells travel supplies and equipment. His place is near the swamp wall, just off Kyoto Plaza. If in the morning you are still serious about accompanying us to Springer's, seek him out and tell him Charka sent you and that you need the regular supplies. You tell him that, and he'll set you up with everything you need. 1 second, I gotta look back, because didn't she say that her granddaughter was Bella? Yeah. Let's see here. One second. No, it was Belle, not Bella. All right. All right. Well, almost back. Sorry about this, guys. But when I think of something, I gotta get on it. But we won't be able to afford it, stated Reneeke. Don't worry, it'll come out of your share of the commission. What is our share? Jaikus asked, very interested, now that the possibility of receiving gold or treasure was mentioned. 5%, and a like share of any treasure we may come across and bring back. That's standard for Springers. If we do this, would we be allowed to join the guild? Jaikus asked. Charka nodded. I shall put your names forward upon our return, provided you acquit yourselves honorably and abide by the contract. Jaikus nodded. Very well, then. We leave at noon tomorrow. Meet us in front of the guild an hour before. Make sure you stop by Bella's first and have your equipment with you. Yes, sir, Jaikus responded. We will do that. Coming to his feet, he motioned for Reneeke to do the same. Reneeke bobbed his head and mumbled, Thank you. See you tomorrow, the woman said. The man in leathers merely eyed them and remained silent. That you will, Jaikus affirmed. Then turning from the table, he and Reneeke headed for the door. Once outside, Jaikus was practically jumping in his excitement. An adventure, Rennie! We are going on an adventure! Meeting his friend's gaze, he added, And after our return, we will be in the guild. Isn't that great? Yeah, sure, Reneeke said. Replied Reneeke as he followed his friend back to their room at the Inn of the Silver Spoon. Though truth be told, he had been kind of hoping their bid to get into the guild would have fallen through. For some reason, he thought life on the farm may be much preferable than what they were about to embark upon. And that ends chapter 2. So now we've got him. They're about ready to embark on an adventure. Got to go get some supplies. Of course, getting supplies always. I don't know why, but I love that part when I was playing Dungeons and Dragons. You know, roll your sheet out and then figuring out how much gold you start out with, and then buy your stuff. Of course, these guys are starting out with nothing. I mean, absolutely nothing. And I think that's actually the way it would be. I can't imagine someone just starting the adventurer's life like in Dungeons and Dragons having a couple hundred gold pieces. Most people don't have that much unless they come from a rich family. Then why are they adventuring? Anyway, this is just a fun story. I absolutely love this story. From at Keeler's and the incident with the sword, and now Matron Grantha and getting the best of Jaikus when he's trying to cheat her for the ring. Some people don't like Jaikus, and I could see that. But I mean, he's not a bad person. He's just kind of working the angles, you might say. Anyway, tomorrow's chapter 3, and we'll get to it. Not many people are following us along on here. I think yesterday, after like 12 hours, I had 2 people having viewed this. But I don't care. I'm enjoying it. Y'all take care.